What's up? I'm Matt, and this is Let's Talk Music. I'm here with Bobby of Voidscape. How's it going, man?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm I'm great, man. Talking to you.
Excellent. Ready for winter to be over with?
Oh, hell yes.
We're close. We're close.
Yeah, and you guys got it worse over there in Jersey than what we do here.
Yeah, but overall, I got to say it has been a very mild winter this year. I mean, I think I shoveled once all year, so it really hasn't been bad. I didn't even wear my winter coat all year,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I don't think I shoveled at all, but I did wear my winter coat a couple times. It got pretty cold.
Yeah. Next year we'll get hit with the bad stuff. We'll see. We had it too easy this year.
Well, we say that every year too, you know.
It's true. It's true.
Tell me, man, what's Voidscape about? Tell me about the band.
Yeah, it's actually a kind of interesting story. So I'm a full-time recording engineer and producer. I produce a lot of local metal bands and independent artists. I've been doing it for almost 20 years now. So the other two guys in the band, I've been working with them for well over a decade on a professional level. Like we never played together, but I've recorded their other bands. And each guy, Mike and Justin, are, I'm not even exaggerating, they are literally in like 5 bands each. They play in a ton of different bands. Super duper productive guys.
Right.
So a few years ago, I had a stockpile of songs, and I thought of some of my favorite players and favorite people to work with about collaborating on these songs. So we ended up doing a 2-song demo back in 2017. It went great. Then we did a single in 2018, also went great. And I decided to work on a full-length EP, like a 4 or 5-song EP. Started it right before the pandemic. And then we slowly chipped away at it throughout the pandemic. And here we are. We have our first official EP. And that's how the band came to be. And we're also into similar styles of music. To me, in my mind, we're sort of like the at the gates of New Jersey. That's how I kind of think of it.
So that's primarily who I work with is independent bands.
Excellent.
I've done a couple of big names, Keith Wallen from Breaking Benjamin, Tommy Vex, who was that? Rick DeJesus from Adelia's Way. But, mostly I do, unsigned bands. And I really enjoy it, man. I mean, granted, yeah, I'd love to do, some big names, I mean,
Yeah.
Beartooth is like one of my favorites, and they're from here in Columbus.
Oh, nice.
And that they're making it huge right now. And I mean, but it's, when they're that big, it's kind of hard to get a hold of them.
Oh, totally, man. Yeah, definitely.
But I love doing independent bands that they're much more easy and open to talk to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
speaking of which, you actually did the mixing and mastering on this,
Yes, correct.
and the EP is Odyssey of Spite.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And that is coming, has it come out yet?
This Friday,
This Friday. Okay,
very
because
soon. 2 days.
yeah, I just see it in the press release, it says at the end of March, so I didn't know what day it was.
Yeah, it's Friday.
Okay, so what kind of response are you getting to so far, or are you, for your videos?
Dude, I'm really happy, man. I went into this just to have fun, to be honest with you, and people really seem to dig it. Even before we did this EP, I have a YouTube channel as well where I share my production techniques, and I use a lot of our music for the demos. And people are always asking, like, "Oh, what's the name of the band?" So there's a lot of interest, which makes me happy.
Yeah.
Again, it's melodic death metal. To me, it sort of has other seasonings kind of thrown in. Excuse me, thrown in. So I'm just happy the response has been as good as it has been. The other thing I experimented with on this EP is I went for a more old school style production as far as like production style.
Mm-hmm.
But people seem to dig it. So I was kind of worried. I was like, wow, I hope people like this. But yeah, people seem to be responding well to it. So I'm extremely happy.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, the new song is Burden of Breathing.
Yes.
Listen to it. It is quite fast. The drumming in that is extremely unreal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Justin's a beast.
yeah, is that why they call him the ninja?
What's funny? I don't know. I've always known him as Ninja. I have to remind myself during these interviews to call him Justin because I've always called him Ninja since back in 2006. I've spent a lot of time with that guy in the studio with his many bands, and we've always called him Ninja. I don't know where that name came from. Maybe it came from that, from his drumming. I don't know. But he's a great drummer, and it's easy to kind of. That's the cool thing is like if I have a thrashier riff, a lot of times in my older projects, I can never find people that can kind of like gel with some of I'm weird because I listen to a lot of different styles of music. So I'm not 100%, I'm not 100% hardcore metal dude. I'm also not, I can never be happy playing in like an indie rock band, right? But I could also never be happy playing in a straight up death metal band. So I need variety.
Right.
But it's working out great. Justin can handle anything. If it's a slower track, he can handle it. If it's a lighter track, like there's an instrumental on the EP that's a little more of a 70s kind of vibe. And then there's crazy thrashy tracks like Burden of Breathing that there's just, it's just very, very natural the way it kind of came together.
Yeah, see, I also listened to Grief Eclipse, and
Nice.
I really enjoyed that one. I find your guitar work in that mesmerizing.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
It's very melodic. And you throw a little bit of old school solo type things in there throughout the chorus and whatever, and I thought that was really cool.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm glad that you noticed it, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. So that's been me. So I've always in the past when I was younger, let me just say this. I hadn't played in a band in years, because when you're a producer, you're spending so much time in the studio, months on end, recording other people's albums, that I haven't played a show in like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. So now that all of this is happening, it's a lot of fun to kind of go back and play again, Right. But yeah. So that was my main focus, at least personally, is to kind of have it be melodic death metal, but with unique kind of, like you mentioned, maybe like an old school rock kind of thing thrown in also, and just have other flavors that are sort of not commonplace in typical metal. That was my goal.
Yeah. I mean, and I think you achieved that, but it was, like I said, it just, that one really caught my ear. I mean, awesome. I think it kind of reminded me of like, excuse me, like a almost Seasons of the Abyss in a way.
Oh, sick, dude. Awesome. Slayer.
Yeah. Cool. Just kind of the melodic sound to it, and then the raspy vocals. It was a really kick-ass song.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So you do guitar and bass.
Yeah, the only reason why is, we haven't, to be honest with you, we haven't even played together. This is more of a studio project, but it's becoming a real project. Like, we have our first show at the end of this month. So we're talking to someone that's going to be playing bass for us. But on the EP and the other recordings, I've played bass just because out of convenience. But the thing is with the band is the other guys write as well. Mike is actually a really good guitar player and bass player, and he plays guitar and bass in his other bands as well as vocals. And Justin is not only a great drummer, he's also a good guitar player and writes songs as well. Wow. So the three of us write. So the way it works is generally they'll send me their ideas, and then I kind of blend them with my ideas, and I kind of work on the skeleton, and then we just chisel away at it until we're ready to record it. So but yeah, on the EP, I played bass as well, just out of convenience, but I would like to eventually not have to. I'd like to have a bass player play bass, and maybe we'll add a second guitarist as well. We'll see how that goes. I found that the more people you have in the band, sometimes the more complicated things get, and it can, kind of slow things down sometimes. Right. But right now I'm just having fun. We're going to add a bass player for the show, and we'll take it from there and see how it goes.
So talking about a second guitarist, Mike doesn't want to do it.
It's funny. I actually mentioned it to him. I asked him if he would want to play. I don't know if I talked about guitar, but he's actually when I met Mike, we're going back to, oh my God, 2007 or 8. I think it might've been 2007. He used to be in a band called Grimace, and he was the bassist in Grimace, a death metal band, local death metal band. Great.
Of them, though.
They were super technical, kind of deathcore kind of stuff. But what's funny is I knew him as a bassist. I didn't even know he sang. And as that band kind of ended, he started his own band called Windfarer, which still exists. And he hit me up and he's like, oh yeah, I started this band. I'm playing guitar and I'm singing. And I'm like, you're singing? And now it's funny. Everyone knows him mainly as a singer, but when I met him, he was playing bass. So he's just he's a multi-instrumentalist. But I think with this project, he's in another band called Replicant, and he's the bassist in that band. And I think he's got, I'm sure each of his projects, he wants to do something different. So I think he just wants to sing, focus on singing in this one. At least that's what I assume. But I did think of that. I did ask him, but I think he wants to just concentrate on vocals.
Now, do you have somebody in mind for bass and guitar?
Yeah, we have our good friend Mike, another Mike, who was in that band Grimace as well. So it's a small world. He's going to be playing bass at this show. We'll see how it goes. He's a great guitar player as well. So That's who I've been leaning towards, because I know he has the chops for it. And I know he's also a guitarist, so he can easily, get into the inner workings of the riffs, and it should be pretty easy for him to pick up.
Right.
So we'll see. I'm just looking to have fun with it and see how it unfolds naturally. And as far as the second guitarist, we've talked about a few different people, but I think right now we'll focus with just the four of us. We'll make it work with the four of us. And then eventually, if it seems like the time is right, then we'll add a second guitar player. If that ever happens, we'll see.
Right. So you said this started as a project and now it's turning into something. Did you expect it to do that?
I mean, it's funny, man. I hoped that eventually would, but I know how busy those guys are. I know how busy I am. I think the timing is just right now for some reason. The pandemic is pretty much, cross our fingers, over with, so we don't have to deal with any of that stuff. And just the response has been overwhelmingly positive to the music, that I think it just to all three of us, it seems like the right time to take it up to the next level, But no, I didn't expect it, to be honest. I thought it was gonna be a studio thing, and but I'm happy. I'm super happy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good when it works out much better than you expected.
Yes, definitely.
So,
it's a pleasant surprise.
Like as a producer, when you're, doing a band, do you kind of have a sense of like, okay, these guys are really good, they're going to make it far, or are you just kind of level with everybody?
That's a great question. Yeah, there have been a lot of bands that I've worked with that, obviously their talent and just how hard they're grinding, it's obvious who are going to make it far in the scene. Like, for example, right now I've worked in recent history, I've worked with two bands that I have high expectation, high hopes for, I should say. A band called Mainline, really young kids. They're in their early 20s, and dude, they're I don't know how to describe that. I would say they're a cross between like old school Ozzy, Metallica, Maiden. They're old school metal,
Okay.
but they're young. And their chops are through the roof. Like, great players, great vocalists. Their singer can sing all that old school stuff, but they also have a modern twist to them. And they're playing tons of gigs. I think now they're actually playing the Whiskey. The Whiskey is in LA, right? The Whiskey on Sunset Strip. Yeah, they're playing the Whiskey, I think in June. So they're going places. They're doing really well. And there's another band that I worked with and did their last album called Poeta, who, again, great players, great songwriters. They're an interesting blend of, like, I don't want to say pop punk, but they're sort of like indie rock mixed with like super heavy chugging. It's a unique blend. I know there are other bands that do that, but they do it in a way that, in my opinion, is very unique. And they're doing really well right now. And again, when they came in with the songs, I knew right away that they were going to be a pleasure to work with. And the same thing with Mainline. So now, of course, there's the other side of the coin where there are bands that come in and half the guys don't know the songs, and this guy wants to sound like Metallica, and this guy wants to sound like Blink-182, and I could tell it's going to kind of be a not pleasurable process overall. But luckily, in the past few years, it's been pretty good, man. Most of the bands coming through have been really, really good. So I think, this is my own little theory, I think for a while, with how popular hip hop, at least by me in Jersey, hip hop is huge. Like, most young people listen to hip hop. And this has been going on for at least 5 years now. I think that's starting to die down, and more young people are starting to kind of discover rock again.
Yeah.
For example, I could talk about this forever. I'll just mention this one last thing. One of my old students, I used to teach guitar. He now puts on his own shows in Montclair, which is a town close by to me. And I'm doing some recording at these shows, doing some live recording as an experiment. And he told me about how packed these shows have been. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I kind of didn't pay much attention to it. I actually went to a few of these shows, and they are off the chain. All young kids, metal, hardcore, punk. The scene is way crazier than it was when I was younger, which is great. That makes me so happy to see that kids are still interested in playing guitar and playing metal, because for a while it was getting scary, man. I was like, oh, is this going to really be the end of it? But I guess it goes in waves.
It does. And I've discussed that with many people, is it's almost like a full circle. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, because I've done a couple of interviews with people that are kind of sampling from 50s and 60s.
Oh, that's cool.
Or 60s and 70s, and then they'll mix their twist in on it. And
I love that.
It's really innovative and really cool.
Yeah.
And, then there's other ones, like I did this band, I don't know, I think last week or something, that, I mean, they sound really similar to Linkin Park.
Wow.
But their music, it it's kind of hard to explain. It was so powerful, the lyrics. It actually touched me.
That's awesome.
And that's I feel like when you're an artist or a producer or whatever, that the stuff that you create, if it touches people, then you've accomplished the biggest goal possible.
Totally, man. I agree 100%. For me, it's not about how fast someone can play or how technical the music is. I really don't give a crap about any of that stuff. I just care about how great the songs are and like you said, how it makes me feel. That's all I've ever cared about. And yeah, I agree 100%. Definitely.
Now, I read in a press release that, Mike had said burden of breathing is about experiencing anxiety and being overwhelmed by existence. Mm-hmm. Your spirit being hauled around by a mortal sack of cells with pain receptors, and you're hyper focusing on the negative, unpleasant experiences.
Yeah.
I really, actually, once I read that, I went in and told my wife, I said, I heard something new. I said, a sack of cells. I've heard them called meat sacks and whatever, but
yeah. I love that, man. Yeah, when I read that as well, I was like, that's a cool way of putting it. Yeah. No, Mike's lyrics are really good. And the thing, I mentioned this recently on another interview that I can, when I read his lyrics, I feel like you can interpret them multiple ways. And I think they're going to be personal to the person that's reading the lyric, because they're not so direct. There's some poetry in there, in my opinion. So.
And that's the thing with, I'd say probably the last 4 or 5 artists that I've talked to, at least Zoom wise. I did a couple of live ones recently, but Zoom wise, there's a lot of focus on mental health, and also that, like, when you ask them what the song's about, they're like, well, this is kind of what I wrote it about, but I prefer that people interpret it their own way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's cool. So they don't want to give like a full explanation of what they were really feeling when they wrote it. And I understand that.
Totally.
Because I mean, a song can come out and 5 people can listen to it. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. And all 5 of those people are going to have a different opinion or different feelings from that song.
And I love that. That's so exciting to me. That for me, that's what motivates me to write music. Honestly, I love that. Just how everyone can interpret it their own way and derive their own meaning from it. I think that's really cool.
It is. And I mean, and you can listen to a song, and I mean, like, I really have a good ear for that. I always have. That's one of the reasons I do this. Another reason I do this is because, I've got such a love and a passion for music. I was never, I don't think I really ever had the patience to learn to play. So I just enjoy talking to people about it. And, it's music is just, it touches you in so many different ways. And, like, to be able to sit there and point blank say, okay, I know what this song is about. And then you talk to somebody else and they're like, oh man, I've heard that song. It's all about this. And I'm like, huh? But it is like, I can usually catch on what the artist is trying to get across.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say this, the other thing that's really cool about music is that it's a time capsule. Like, when you listen to a song that you haven't heard in 20 years and it brings you back, it never ceases to amaze me how effective it really is. For example, recently I've been on a huge guilty pleasure for anyone who's watching. I'm a Stained fan. Remember the band Stained?
Oh yeah,
dude. I only bought. Let me think about this. The first 4 records. So, for the first 5 years of their career, I love those albums.
Yeah.
The guitar player in that band is actually really underrated. Mike Mushak is a great guitar player, really creative too. But anyway, recently, I think they're playing shows again, and I was watching some of their new live footage, and it just brought me right back to high school immediately. As soon as I hear those songs, it brings me back to 99, 2000. And yeah, that's another great thing about music, is it really brings you back to a specific moment in time when you listened to, whichever, the album or the song or whatever. So love it.
Yep. Mud Shovel was my first song ever from them that I heard.
Oh, it's funny. The one that really kind of got me, Mud Shovel was cool, but it was that song Home. Remember the song Home?
Yes.
That same album, I love, there's something about his melodies, a lot of metalheads kind of lump them in with like, I don't know, they call them like dad rock or like the bands like a Nickelback kind of thing. I never really took Stain for that. I don't know. For me, they were sort of like a post-grunge. I hear, obviously, you could tell they're all metalheads as well. There's a little bit of Pantera sometimes in the riffing.
Yeah.
That's just me, you know?
Well, and that was another thing with Mike is, I mean, he was kind of like, oh, what's the Tremonti? What's his?
Creed. He's a great guitar player too.
Yeah, but see that they was playing, this kind of slower rock, and they wanted to branch out and do harder stuff.
Yeah, totally. And he's talented, man. You know, in his stuff, I'm not. I mean, I had the first few Creed records. I know he's also in Alter Bridge. I think he's in a band called Alter Bridge and
Mark
his own
Tremonti,
thing.
That's who it is.
Mark Tremonti. And it's amazing how he's progressed as a player. Like his stuff now, it's almost unrecognizable. He can shred. It's really, really cool. Yeah, he's another, I would say, an underrated guitar player. That who would have thought, right? You know,
right. So, I mean, speaking of guitar players, man, at what age did you start playing guitar?
I started playing pretty young. I was 10. So I've been playing guitar for almost 30 years. Very long time.
Yeah. And like anybody that kind of got you into it?
Yeah, my parents are big music fans. So in the early 90s, you know, but they were young at the time, so they would have their friends over and they would always be spinning like Van Halen. My dad's a big Kiss fan, Sabbath, all the classic stuff. And it was kind of a perfect storm because when I was at that age, you know, 8, 9, and 10, not only were my parents playing all this classic rock, but grunge was big. So Nirvana was big. Gotcha. And somehow I went from Sabbath and all the classic rock bands, also, you know, got into Nirvana, but then I discovered Metallica, and then it was game over. Then it was Pantera. Then I went to the heavier stuff like Morbid Angel and Carcass, and that's how it happened for me. I think my parents probably had a lot to do with it because I was exposed to rock so regularly in the house.
Right.
And that's how it started. And it's just been, and then I started playing when I was age 10, and it was an obsession from age 10 until my 20s. And then production kind of took over, but I always played. But yeah.
So like when you play, man, I mean, who do you feel like is coming through you into your fingers? Like I don't want to say who's your influence, because that's kind of cliche.
Yeah.
But like, who do you get your inspiration from?
I mean, I listened to a lot. When I was a teenager, I really got into jazz and bebop for a while. And I still am. I'm kind of rediscovering all that stuff now. So I would say, just to keep it simple, the guitar players that really influenced me the most I would say my top 3 would be Eddie Van Halen. Not even because of his technical ability, because people know Eddie Van Halen as a great guitar player, which he is. He's one of the best guitar players of all time. But he's an amazing songwriter, and he's so creative, and he was so tasteful with his playing. That's why Van Halen is so successful. I never considered Eddie Van Halen to be the same type of player as someone like Yngwie or Vai, and those guys are great as well. I love all that stuff as well, but I've never been a guitar player. I've always been more into guitar players that were great songwriters. So Eddie Van Halen, Wes Montgomery, who's a jazz player from the 1960s, huge influence on me. And then also I would say Dimebag Darrell, you know, because God, I was obsessed with Pantera as a kid. So, and I guess Michael Amott from Carcass and those guys as well. Those would be like my top 4.
Did you know that Eddie wrote most of his songs at the piano?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I knew that he played piano and wrote piano pieces. I didn't know he wrote his guitar riffs at the piano. That's interesting.
Yeah, I remember hearing that in a documentary or whatever, that he wrote almost all of Van Halen's lyrics.
Wow.
Through the piano.
Never knew that. Yeah, he was such a talented guy, and also so creative, man. Like, you knew within seconds if you heard him play, you know it was him immediately. You know, and I love that. I love those types of musicians that have their own personality like that. That's my jam.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another one that I really enjoy listening to that was very underrated is Eric Johnson.
Oh, dude, I went through an Eric Johnson phase. Great player. He's another one, like you were saying, underrated. Technically a great player, but also he plays with soul, and his note choices are so good. His tone is amazing, man. Such a great player.
Oh yeah, I love Cliffs of Dover. I can put my headphones on and turn that all the way up and just be off in another world.
Yeah, he's phenomenal, man. Another unique player.
So what part of Jersey are you from, man?
I'm from like the New York area. Like you could literally see New York from my house, pretty much.
Gotcha.
So yeah, North Jersey.
Yeah, I had family in East Brunswick.
Oh, okay. So not too far away from me.
Yeah, they both of them have passed away by at by this point. But yeah, I spent some time in Jersey as a kid. It's my dad's family. And then as a truck driver, I've spent quite a bit of time in Jersey. Jersey has a hell of a music scene. I mean, a lot of people I don't think really think about that. They think of California or Florida or something like that. But I mean, a lot of the greats came from Jersey. I mean,
Yeah.
you got the freaking Misfits. You got
Yeah.
Skid Row, Bon Jovi. Bruce Springsteen.
I didn't know Skid Row's from Jersey.
Yeah.
Wow, never knew that, man. Sebastian Bach is in Skid Row, right?
Well, he was.
Was. Wow,
Yeah.
so Sebastian Bach is from Jersey. You taught me something new. I did not know that.
Sebastian was actually from Canada and,
Okay.
and moved to Jersey. And he was referred to the guys through a mutual friend.
Got it.
See, and that's my gift, as I remember useless shit from 20, 30 years
Oh, I
ago.
love that, man. I'm kind of the same way, except with horror films. I know the most obscure things in the world, but quite things I should know, I don't know.
Right. But yeah, I mean, it just you got a lot of talent out there. I've talked to several bands from, the New York and Jersey area. Um, it is. It's like I said, most people think, oh well, all the metal music comes from LA because of, Motley Crue and Guns N'
Right.
Roses and all that. And I'm like, there's plenty of metal everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
hell, like I said, you got Beartooth from here, Starset, out in Dayton, you have Hawthorne Heights. I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah, they're just
It's everywhere.
it
It's
is. It's
everywhere.
everywhere, man. And I mean, that's one of the things I said. Like, what I love about this is that I get to experience so much new music.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I used to be like very closed minded. I used to be okay. I'm like Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, and then I'll get into my other stuff that like Cranberries or whatever. But yeah, I mean, since I've been doing this, you can't be closed minded, and
No.
I've been doing I mean, I'm gonna get a lot of bands over in Europe,
Oh, cool.
and I'll tell you what, the death metal over there is off the change.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
it's a whole different thing. I mean, I actually just listened to Cradle of Filth for the first time.
Oh, really? Okay. Classic
Yeah,
band. Yeah.
yeah, because I really never was into that scene. I mean, I remember the first death metal band I ever heard was Death,
Okay. Yeah.
which
Classic.
yes, Chuck Schuldiner was like the pioneer of death metal.
Oh, yeah.
So, but I mean, so we just released an EP. You guys got the new single out. You're playing a live show soon. Um, what are you looking for in the future for the band?
Well, the guys and I have been throwing some ideas around. We talked about either doing another EP right away or most likely the way it's going is probably gonna be a full length. So some shows, full length, more videos, playthroughs, just more music, So I'm excited.
So, as creative as all of you are together, do you guys do your own videos too?
I'm glad you asked that. It's funny because throughout the years, working with Mike as a recording engineer and producer with his bands, I've always known that he was good at doing art, like graphic arts, right? So he always did the artwork for his bands, and he does all the artwork for us. It's funny. So we knew we had to shoot a video, and he's like, "Yeah, I can do it." And I'm like, "You know how to do videos?" And he did all the video. He did all the videos himself. He brought the camera, did all the editing. So we're kind of a self-contained DIY band. I do all the recording and producing. He does all the videos, and Justin does a lot of the business-related stuff. Like he handles all of the label stuff and the merch that we got to get and all that. So yeah, it's a pretty well-balanced machine we've got going. It worked out. It wasn't on purpose, but it just happened to work out that way, which is great.
It sounds like it. So you mentioned label. What label are you with?
Nefarious Records.
Okay.
And hopefully I didn't mess up the pronunciation. I've been known to mess it up, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it.
They a Jersey-based label, or
that's a good question, man. The guy we've been talking to, he is from Jersey or was from Jersey at one point. I don't know where he's located right now. Let me make sure I got this right here. Yes, I'm pretty sure I got that right. Yeah. So yeah, just make sure I pronounce it right. I'm
Yeah,
paranoid, but yeah.
yeah. Don't want to mess up the label's name. So yeah, man. And so I mean, it sounds like it's a little project. It's turning into something much more than what you guys expected, and
Yeah.
you seem super geeked about it.
Hell
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's what I said, man. That's what it's all about, and I'm glad it's working for you guys. And like I said, man, I listened to the first two Grief Eclipse and Burden of Breathing. I'm gonna check out the other three tonight, but so far Grief Eclipse, man, I really like I said, I dig that. It's got like that again, the kind of the during the where you're kind of going up and down the neck, and I was like, oh, that's some old school shit right there.
Awesome, man. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm glad someone noticed. So that was my goal.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I catch that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like a I don't know. I used to watch like all of the interviews on freaking Headbangers Ball. I
Oh,
used to,
I remember those days.
yes, used to watch all of the behind the musics, and I'm like, my mom always told me, she said, if you paid as much attention to school as you did to music, you'd be an honor student. I'm like, yeah, well, school bores me, mom. I like music.
Yeah. Same here.
But all right, brother. Well, we're about out of time. I really appreciate your time. It was great talking with you.
Likewise, man. I had a blast.
You guys keep on fucking rocking, man. And just you know, any new stuff comes out, send it my way. I'd love to hear it.
Totally.
Um, LPs are always cool. I like the long version.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go back to the days of Master of Puppets or Injustice for All, whatever, that shit was like 4 hours long.
It's an experience, and unfortunately, because of streaming and now even worse, TikTok, because now people's attention spans are really out the window.
Oh yeah.
Albums are unfortunately not as popular as they once were, but I've always been a huge fan of albums. Again, Master of Puppets, like I couldn't imagine listening to Master of Puppets as a bunch of singles. Like that to me is a work of art.
Yes.
It's one work of art that is meant to be experienced as a cohesive unit.
Yes.
So we'll do it. It might not be as popular these days, but we're still gonna do it.
Right. And man, I've said so many people I'm very nostalgic. So I miss the days of cassette tapes. I actually just got a new Victrola record player that I've been jamming. When I went to this concert the other night, I did an interview with two of the bands, bought one of their records.
Awesome.
So I mean, it gives me something to hold on to and say,
Yeah.
hey, I listen, I was there for this, and it also, gives them a little bit of money in their pocket. So,
Well, the good news is the EP is out on cassette as well, believe it or not.
oh hell,
Yeah, we put it out on cassette, and that makes my heart sing, man. Cause I'm really nostalgic. I mean, I have a VHS collection. I'm a huge horror nut, and I'm probably one of the only weirdos in this entire state that collects. I'm sure there are others. It's becoming more popular now, kind of like vinyl. But yeah, I mean, I miss video stores. I miss record stores. I miss video stores. I miss physical media. I love the new technology as well. Don't get me wrong; it's convenient, but there's something to a physical product that you paid money for. You're going to respect it more. You're going to consume the whole thing. It's not just something you stream and you just click through. It's
right?
different. So, but no, the EP is out on CD and cassette.
Okay, can I get that on your website?
Yeah. There should be links. I can send you a link.
Okay,
It'll be available once it drops. But yeah, we have cassettes, which makes me happy. That was my goal with this EP, was as long as it comes out on cassette, I'm happy.
that makes me happy, dude.
Yeah, it's cool.
I miss them things. I talk about those all the time, like how you'd come home from the record store and you'd open up, take the plastic off, and then you take the tape out, you put it in, hit play, and you pull the jacket open and start.
Oh yeah. Yep. Totally, man. Totally.
Yeah.
I still have my old collection of CDs and cassettes and even vinyl as well.
God, I wish I had all my. See, I've been getting back into vinyl. I think I've got like 5 or 6 records now. But I mean, I do. I wish I had my tape collection, man, from back in the day, because I had so much shit. I got into CDs a little bit. I had maybe one of those books that was about yay thick, but when it comes to cassette tapes, man, they were stacked up in rows in a holder. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally, man. Totally. It's funny now. I was talking to someone about this the other day. Now people are starting to, they're becoming nostalgic for CDs. There's actually YouTube channels dedicated to CD collecting.
Yes.
So we've come, we're that far removed from physical media that CDs are now, people are nostalgic for CDs, which I think is pretty funny. But CDs actually, technically, from a geek audio standpoint, CDs are the highest quality that you could really consume. So CDs are very, recently, when I popped in a few CDs in my home stereo within the past year, I'm like, wow, I forgot how good CDs sound, because we're used to streaming. Streaming's good. Don't get me wrong. It's still high quality, but it's not as, it's still compressed to a certain extent versus, a full dynamic range CD. So, so I could see that makes sense for me, for people to go back to that, because they really do sound great. And of course, you have the benefit of it's physical. You have the liner notes, you have the artwork, you have the whole experience.
Yep. That's very true, man. And I'll tell you what, even with the new style record player and the new 35s, I mean, it has that popping and cracking sound that I just loved.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? It's not, I don't even think it's 100% nostalgia, because a lot of younger kids are collecting vinyl. And there's got to be something to it, because they didn't grow up with this stuff, I mean, my parents did, but like when I was a kid, I was around vinyl. But there is something to vinyl. Because the distortions and the warmth and the extra harmonics that exist within vinyl, there's a certain thing that you don't get from any other medium, So no, love it. I'm a huge vinyl fan. Every day I listen to, at least almost every day, part of my morning ritual, I read and listen to some jazz or something on vinyl. So I just love the whole experience.
I can tell you, I'm 46 years old, and for the first time, either at 46 or 45, I've heard Stairway to Heaven on vinyl.
Oh yeah, it's an experience.
It was.
Yeah, and,
totally. Black Dog. I mean, yeah.
Classic stuff.
Hotel California, Give Me Back My Bullets.
Yeah.
Just my wife bought me this record player, and she brought a few records with it. It ended up quitting on me. I don't know what happened to it. We got the protection plan, and I said, "Oh, I really like this one because it's wood, old."
Yeah. Hell yeah.
It was like $20 more, so I ordered it, and hell, it came the next day, dude. I was like a freaking kid at Christmas. Totally. I saw that it was delivered. I made her come home. We work at the same place. I made her come home from work and freaking go get it off the porch. I was like, I don't want to get it rained on. I don't want nobody to steal it.
Oh, totally.
All right, brother. Well, you enjoy your evening, man. And, I'll look forward to when the tape comes out. I'm definitely going to have to order one, because I haven't held a cassette tape, and I can't tell you how long.
Yeah, no, it's the trend started coming back, and I have friends that put out cassettes. I'm like, yo, I need to put out a cassette. So I've accomplished my goal. I'm happy.
Well, that's what life's all about, buddy.
Totally, man. Definitely. Well, dude, it was great talking. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, man. Have a great night.
You too.